Today is Wednesday, August 5. My name is Pastor Anthony, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Today our text comes from Deuteronomy 6. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 9. I mentioned this before, but I've been struck lately by the absence of congregational worship from the life of the Old Testament. I mean, daily, weekly, and annual rhythms of sacrifice and prayer were always going on at the national gathering place of tabernacle and later the temple. And the weekly rhythms of Sabbath were ongoing in homes across the land, but there's no steady intermediate place. No church or synagogue where a community that was larger than one's household, but smaller than the whole tribe or nation, would gather for a weekly service. Much more emphasis in the Old Testament was placed on the two anchor points at the extreme. On the one end, the central worship at tabernacle and temple, where the rituals of confession, sacrifice, forgiveness, and praise were rehearsed. On the other end of that spectrum, the decentralized worship that happened week to week in homes, when the Sabbath was observed. Now here in Deuteronomy 6, the people are finally at the doorstep of the Promised Land. Their wilderness wanderings have come to an end. For 40 years, they have been shaped by centralized worship. The tabernacle was pitched right at the center of the camp with them, so anyone could look down the row of tents to see it. And always, daily, the rituals were being rehearsed and repeated there again and again in the sight of the people. Always, daily, the conversation with God was being kept as he and Moses spoke face to face in the tent of meeting. And always, daily, the people were on pilgrimage with their God and their God with them. As they journeyed through the wilderness, the ordinary stuff of their lives was entirely and visibly intertwined with the sacred realities of God among them. But they were about to be scattered. Here on the plains of Moab, overlooking the Promised Land, Moses began to remind the people of what they would need most when they became scattered across the land. They would no longer be one big camp together in one place surrounding their central place of worship at the tabernacle. And there would be no intermediate place either to gather with others. No, they would be scattered to their own homes, days away from each other. They might not see a priest or the tabernacle for months. So how would they stay faithful as God's people when they became scattered? Well, Moses gives some ideas right here as he rehearses the commands of God. It's about staying faithful in the everyday, ordinary stuff of life. It's about loving God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, with all that we are. It's about keeping God and his ways, not just on our lips, not just paying it lip service, but keeping the commands and ways of God in our hearts. But also to keep God on our lips, telling of his stories and commands when you're sitting around, when you're on the go, when you're parenting, when you're going out, when you're coming in, when you turn in for the night, and when you get up the next morning. Moses even says, hey, if it helps you to remember, make a note on your hand or write it on your forehead so you see it in the mirror the next morning. The point is, the life of faith has to be lived where you are every day of your life, especially when you're scattered. Pastor Michael and I pray that these devotions have helped to make your faith walk an everyday part of your life, especially in this time of being scattered from church. Because keeping the rhythms of faithfulness is hard to do when we're scattered, and as one day blurs into another in the season of COVID-19. So it's good to keep praying for and speaking with one another on ways that we can encourage each other to keep the faith where we are each day of our lives, because maybe it takes more than these devotions, and maybe some aren't connected to them. So how can we continue to encourage one another in the ordinary, everyday ways of faithfulness? For now, as you journey on, go with the blessing of God. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May your day end with rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you, and may you rest in his provision as he brings night and then new dawn.